So, let's talk about one of the most heartbreaking moments in Star Wars history. Ben Solo, the last Skywalker, gives up his life to save Rey on Exegol, fades into the Force, and just like that, the bloodline ends. Roll credits. But what if that's not how it went down? What if Ben Solo actually survived that moment? What if he crawled out of that pit, stood beside Rey, and had to face a galaxy that knew him as Kylo Ren? Today we're exploring that exact scenario, and trust me, this gets complicated fast. Because redemption is one thing when you die a hero, it's something else entirely when you have to live as one. Let's get into it. Alright, so let's set the stage. In The Rise of Skywalker, after Rey defeats Palpatine, she collapses, dead from the effort. Ben Solo climbs out of that abyss, already a miracle in itself, and uses the Force to transfer his life essence into her. They share that kiss. He smiles for basically the first time in 3 movies, and then he's gone. His body vanishes. No Force ghost at the end, just gone. Now here's where our story splits off. Imagine Ben uses the Force healing, but doesn't give all of his life force. Maybe the dyad connection means the energy is shared differently. Maybe Leia's spirit, having just passed into the Force, gives him that extra push he needs. Or maybe, and this is supported by the lore, Exegol itself, with its ancient Sith virginces, has some residual power that keeps him tethered to life just long enough. However it happens, Ben Solo survives. Rey wakes up, and instead of being alone, she sees him there, alive, exhausted, but breathing. That's the fork in the road. And from here, everything gets fascinating and messy. So Ben's alive. Great. Happy ending, right? Not exactly, because here's the thing nobody wants to talk about. Ben Solo is one of the most wanted war criminals in the galaxy. Let's not sugarcoat what Kylo Ren did. Under his command, the First Order destroyed the Hosnian system. Billions of lives, gone in seconds. He personally hunted down Force-sensitive children. He led brutal campaigns across multiple worlds. Yes, he was manipulated by Palpatine since birth. Yes, Snoke was in his head. But manipulation doesn't erase accountability. The galaxy doesn't care about his tragic backstory when entire planets are mourning their dead. So what happens when the Resistance wins and someone recognizes the supreme leader of the First Order standing next to Rey? Does Finn, who was tortured by Kylo in The Force Awakens, just forgive and forget? Does Poe, who lost countless friends to the First Order, welcome him with open arms? According to John Boyega himself, Finn would have told Rey to stay far away from Ben, redeemed or not. And honestly, that's the most realistic take. The New Republic would absolutely demand a war crimes tribunal. There would be calls for execution. Even if Rey vouched for him, it might just turn people against her too. Ben Solo can't walk into the sunset and rebuild the Jedi Order. He'd be arrested the moment he stepped foot on any civilized planet. This is where the story gets really interesting. If Ben survives, he can't have a normal life. He and Rey can't settle down on some peaceful world and train younglings. The remnants of the First Order would hunt him as a traitor. The New Republic would hunt him as a war criminal. He'd be the most hunted man in the galaxy. But there's a beauty in that. Because true redemption isn't a single heroic sacrifice. It's the hard work that comes after. It's living with what you've done, and spending every day trying to make it right, knowing you never fully can. Ben Solo on the run, working from the shadows to undo the damage he caused. That's compelling. Imagine him moving from planet to planet, helping rebuild what the First Order destroyed. Never using his real name. Never claiming credit, just doing the work because it needs to be done. He could encounter people who lost everything because of his orders, people who'd want him dead on sight, and he'd have to live with that. No lightsaber duels, no grand speeches, just a man carrying the weight of his sins, trying to be better than the person he was. Rey would probably be torn. She sees the good in him, she always did, but she also has responsibilities to the galaxy. Can she openly support her former tyrant? Does their forced dyad connection mean she feels incomplete without him, even if being together means exile? That conflict is storytelling gold. It's messy, it's painful, and it's real. Here's what really gets me about Ben surviving. It fundamentally changes the meaning of the Skywalker legacy. In the actual ending, the Skywalker bloodline dies out. Rey takes the name, which is fine. But it's symbolic, not literal. With Ben alive, the legacy becomes about something different. It's not about bloodlines anymore, it's about choice. Anakin Skywalker fell to the dark side and was redeemed in death. Ben Solo fell to the dark side and could be redeemed in life. That's the evolution of the saga. That's breaking the cycle that George Lucas talked about, the rhyming stanzas of Star Wars history. Ben could become something we've never really seen in Star Wars, a redeemed villain who has to live with the consequences. Imagine him, years later, helping Rey train a new generation of Force users, but never as a master. Always as someone learning, atoning, growing. He'd be living proof that anyone can change, but that change comes with cost and responsibility. And that scene at the end of Rise of Skywalker, instead of Rey alone on Tatooine, calling herself a Skywalker, what if Ben is there with her? But he stays silent when the old woman asks her name, because he hasn't earned that name back yet. Maybe he never will, but he's trying. That's powerful. That's different from any Star Wars story we've gotten. Look, I know why they killed Ben off. Redemptive sacrifice is emotionally clean. It mirrors Vader. It's poetic. But it's also the easy way out. Keeping Ben Solo alive would have required the next trilogy to actually deal with the consequences of the First Order. It would have forced Star Wars to grapple with forgiveness, justice, and what atonement really looks like. Those are uncomfortable questions, but they're important ones. Adam Driver himself was developing a post-Rise of Skywalker film called The Hunt for Ben Solo with director Steven Soderbergh. Driver called it one of the best scripts he'd ever read, comparing it to The Empire Strikes Back. But Disney shut it down, reportedly because they couldn't explain how Ben survived. Here's the thing. Star Wars has always found ways to bring characters back. Palpatine returned, somehow. Maul survived being cut in half. But they won't bring back The Last Skywalker because it's too complicated. That feels like a missed opportunity. Ben Solo's survival would have given us a character arc we've never seen in Star Wars, not a redemption through death, but a redemption through living, through facing the people you hurt, through accepting that some things can't be fixed, but trying anyway. That's the story I wish we got. A Skywalker who lived. So what do you think? Should Ben Solo have survived? Would his story have been better served by living to atone for his actions, or was his sacrifice the right ending? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this exploration of what could have been, hit that like button and subscribe for more Star Wars deep analysis.